It was supposed to be a simple solo hiking trip. A way to clear my head after a rough year. I had picked an isolated trail in the heart of Ravens Peak National Forest, far from civilization, where I could be alone with my thoughts. The ranger at the station gave me a strange look when I told him my destination, Old Briar Trail. Not many folks go that way, he said, handing me a map. Trail's not well marked. Gets easy to lose your way. I assured him I'd be fine. I had done dozens of solo hikes before. I had my compass, my gear, everything I needed. The first few hours were peaceful. The woods were alive with the sounds of rustling leaves, chirping birds, and the occasional snap of a branch underfoot. The path was narrower than I expected, barely visible in some areas, but I kept moving. Then I noticed something strange. There were footprints on the trail. Not old ones either, fresh. Someone else had been here and they weren't wearing hiking boots. The prints were barefoot. I felt uneasy but pressed on. Maybe another hiker had taken off their shoes for some reason. An hour later, I found the first sign that something was very wrong. A backpack, torn apart, lay in the middle of the trail. Clothes were strewn around it, shredded like something had clawed through them. A sleeping bag had been ripped open, the stuffing spilling out onto the dirt. No blood. No sign of a struggle. Just abandonment. I called out, but the forest swallowed my voice. The birds had gone silent. Even the wind had stilled. Then, from deeper in the woods, I heard a voice. A woman's voice. Help me. It was distant, barely above a whisper. I turned, scanning the trees. Hello? I called. Silence. Then closer, just behind me. Help me. I spun around. Nothing. Just trees. A chill crept up my spine. Something felt wrong. The voice had been too close, but there was no sign of anyone. No movement. No footsteps. I pulled out my map, trying to focus, trying to push down the rising panic. That's when I noticed something that hadn't been there before. The footprints. They circled me. I ran. Branches whipped against my face, tearing at my skin, but I didn't stop. I needed to get back to the main trail, to anywhere but here. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I kept running. Then the forest ended. Not in a clearing. Not at a road. It just ended. One moment I was surrounded by trees. The next I was standing at the edge of something impossible. A vast, black void stretched before me, swallowing all light, all sound. The air smelled different here, thick, metallic like blood and earth. Behind me the whispering started again. But now it wasn't just a single voice. Dozens. Hundreds. They surrounded me, their words overlapping, pleading, laughing, hungry. I turned, my breath caught in my throat. Figures stood among the trees. Barefoot. Tall. Too tall. Their limbs were wrong, stretched, elongated. Their faces were featureless, shifting in and out of focus like they weren't fully there. Then, as one, they stepped forward. I had a choice. Face them. Or step into the void. I made my decision. I don't remember falling. Only the cold, the weightless pull of something wrapping around me, pulling me down. I woke up in my tent. The sun was rising. Birds were singing. My backpack was neatly packed beside me. Had it all been a dream? A hallucination? I sighed, rubbing my eyes, trying to shake off the lingering dread. Then I noticed something outside my tent. Bare footprints. Circling me. My breath hitched. The footprints weren't just near my tent. They completely circled it, like something had been watching me while I slept. And they weren't mine. They were barefoot. Too long. Too deep. My stomach twisted. My hands trembled as I reached for my pack, my mind screaming that I needed to leave. I ripped open the tent flap, heart hammering. The forest looked normal. Birds chirped. Sunlight streamed through the trees. The world seemed ordinary, but I knew better now. Something had followed me back. I shoved everything into my bag, moving as fast as my shaking hands allowed. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I forced myself to stay calm. If I panicked, I'd make mistakes. And I had a terrible feeling that mistakes would cost me everything. I pulled out my compass, but the needle spun wildly, refusing to settle. No. I took out my map, but my location didn't make sense. The landmarks were all wrong. It was as if the trail had moved while I slept. Then I heard it. A sound like branches snapping, but slower, more deliberate. Something was walking through the trees. I held my breath, straining to listen. The sound wasn't coming from one direction. It was coming from everywhere. Soft footsteps. Crunching leaves. Bare feet moving through the underbrush. Then from just behind me. Help me. The exact same voice as before. The same whisper. My blood ran cold. I turned slowly, my pulse hammering in my ears. There, standing just at the tree line, was a figure. It looked like a woman. Sort of. Her body was wrapped in tattered, filthy clothes, her limbs stiff and unnatural. Her skin was too pale, stretched too tight over her bones. Her face was turned away, hair falling in greasy strands over her features. But her voice was soft. "Wait, human. Please, help me." A horrible part of me wanted to step forward. To believe that maybe, this was just a lost hiker, a survivor. But then I saw her feet. They weren't feet at all. They were roots. Long, gnarled tendrils that slithered into the earth, becoming the ground. As if she wasn't standing on the forest floor, she was growing from it. The whispering started again. I turned my head slightly and my stomach dropped. There were more of them. Figures stood deep in the trees, barely visible between the trunks. They were too still, too silent. Watching. Waiting. The woman in front of me twitched, her head jerking as if someone had yanked invisible strings. Then, with a sickening crack, she turned to face me. She had no eyes. Only holes. Dark, empty voids that stretched too deep into her skull. Her mouth moved, forming words that didn't match the sound that came out. "Stay with us." I ran. I didn't care if I was going in the right direction. I didn't care if I tripped, if I fell, if my lungs burned. I ran. The whispering grew louder. Voices layered on top of each other, laughing, crying, screaming. My own name slithered through the sound. Daniel. I ran faster. The forest blurred past me, trees twisting into unnatural shapes, their branches reaching for me like fingers. The ground felt wrong, soft and pulsing beneath my feet, like something was breathing beneath the earth. Then, a break in the trees. A road. I nearly sobbed. My legs screamed in protest as I pushed myself forward, toward the pavement, toward safety. The moment my feet hit the road, the noise stopped. No whispering. No footsteps. Nothing. I turned back, gasping for breath. The forest stood still, too still. The trees loomed in silence as if they had never moved at all. And then, just before I looked away, the woman stepped out of the trees. Only she wasn't a woman anymore. Her limbs had stretched impossibly long, her fingers sharpened into twisting branches. Her mouth split open too wide, revealing a dark, gaping void where her throat should have been. I blinked and she was gone. I didn't stop running until I reached the ranger station. I must have looked like a madman bursting into the station, gasping for air. The ranger from before, the one who had warned me, stood up quickly. "You went to Briar Trail, didn't you?" he said. I nodded, unable to speak. He exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples. "You're lucky you made it back." I swallowed hard. "What are they?" The ranger hesitated. "No one knows. The few who survived don't remember much. Some say the forest isn't just alive, it's hungry. It doesn't just take your body. It takes you." I thought about the voices, the way they had called my name, the footprints around my tent, the woman's too wide grin. "Then why is the trail still open?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The ranger's expression darkened. "It's not." I stared at him, confusion twisting my thoughts. "But I was just there." The ranger pulled a large map from behind the desk, spreading it across the table. His finger traced over the wilderness, over the hiking routes. Then he pointed at Briar Trail. There was nothing there. No marked path. No sign it had ever existed. My skin turned ice cold. "But you're not the first to come back talking about it," the ranger interrupted. "And you won't be the last." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "If you hear the whispering again, no matter where you are, don't answer. Don't look. And no matter what it says." His eyes locked onto mine. "Never follow it back." I left town that evening, too shaken to stay any longer. But that night, in my motel room, I woke up to the sound of soft footsteps outside my door. Barefoot. Slow. Deliberate. A shadow passed beneath the crack. Then, "Help me." I squeezed my eyes shut, covered my ears. The whispering pressed against the walls, against my mind, curling through the darkness like smoke. Then from right behind me, "You left something in the woods, Daniel." I turned. And the door creaked open. The door opened slowly, hinges groaning like something ancient, something reluctant. Cold air seeped into the room, heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. I couldn't move. My body locked up, muscles coiled so tightly that even breathing felt dangerous. Something was standing in the doorway. Not a person. Not her. It was a shape, too tall, too thin, its head tilting in unnatural jerks, as if adjusting to the weight of a body it had never worn before. Shadows clung to it, shifting and writhing. It had no eyes, no mouth, but somehow I knew it was watching me. Then, in a voice that didn't belong to it, "Daniel, you left something in the woods." A wave of nausea crashed over me. The voice wasn't the same as before. It was deeper, more distorted. I forced my limbs to move, to do something, but my body still refused. My breath came in shallow gasps as the thing in the doorway took a step forward. Its feet were bare, long, split at the ends like roots. Another step. I wanted to scream, to run. But the moment I opened my mouth, the whispering started again. Not from the thing. From behind me. Help me. A cold dread crawled up my spine. I felt a presence at my back, the unmistakable pressure of something hovering just behind me, close enough to touch. I could hear its breathing. Wet. Shallow. Turn around. The whisper was delicate, almost pleading. My fingers clenched into fists. I knew that if I turned around I wouldn't leave this room alive. The thing in the doorway twitched, its body shifting like something inside was struggling to fit. It took another step, and for the first time I saw its hands. Long fingers, splintered like broken branches. It reached for me. Something in my head snapped. I bolted. I lunged for the motel door, throwing my entire weight against it. The second I crossed the threshold, the air changed. The whispering stopped. The thing, whatever it was, didn't follow. I ran into the parking lot, gasping for breath. The night was still. Too still. Not a single sound, not even crickets. I looked back at my room. The door was shut. Had it ever been open? Had I imagined it? No. The footprints were still there. I drove for hours. I didn't know where I was going, I just needed to get away. By sunrise, I found myself at a gas station on the edge of a different town. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone, desperate for some kind of reassurance that I was back in the real world. Then I noticed something. My phone had photos in it that I didn't remember taking. I opened the gallery with trembling fingers. The first few were normal, pictures from my hike, my gear, the trees. Then the next ones, pictures of me, sleeping, in my tent. The final photo was taken from inside my motel room. A shadow stood in the doorway, watching me. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Every time I stopped driving I felt it. The weight of unseen eyes. The whispering just beyond my hearing. And then the text started. Unknown number, you shouldn't have left. Unknown number, come back. Unknown number, you left something in the woods. I threw the phone out the window. It didn't matter. The whispering was already inside my head. And now, no matter where I go, I know it will find me again. I kept driving. It didn't matter where, I just needed to be moving. I barely ate. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that thing in the doorway. I heard the whispers in my ear. I stayed in crowded places, truck stops, diners, motels with bright neon signs. But no matter where I went, it followed. It started with small things. The motel doors were never locked in the morning, even though I knew I bolted them shut. My belongings would be moved just slightly, as if someone, or something, had brushed against them in the night. The worst part? The footprints. Always barefoot. Always circling. I tried to pretend they weren't there. That they were just some sick coincidence. Until I saw them inside my room. I stopped at a gas station somewhere in Nebraska, exhausted beyond belief. I hadn't slept in over 30 hours, but I refused to close my eyes. The clerk gave me a strange look as I bought a bottle of water and some caffeine pills. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said. I gave a weak chuckle. Something like that. He hesitated, then leaned forward, lowering his voice. You should keep moving. I froze. What? The clerk's face was pale. His eyes flicked to the window, then back to me. She's watching. A cold weight settled in my gut. I turned, slowly, following his gaze to the glass doors. And there she was, standing at the edge of the parking lot. The woman. Her clothes were ragged, her limbs too still. The same greasy hair fell over her face, but this time, I could see her mouth. Her lips stretched into a grin. Then, without moving, she whispered. I felt the sound crawl against my skin. Come back. I backed away, nearly knocking over the display behind me. You see her? I whispered. The clerk swallowed hard. Yeah. My stomach turned. What is she? His face was grim. You're not the first to come through here running from something like that. You need to keep moving. I nodded, gripping the counter for support. Then I made the mistake of looking back. She was closer. Not walking. Not moving. Just closer. The whispering slithered through the air, too soft to understand. I bolted. I drove for hours, not stopping, not thinking. The caffeine barely kept me going. My hands shook against the wheel, my vision blurred. Then my headlights flickered. The car stalled. No, I gasped. I turned the key frantically, but the engine only groaned in response. The road was empty. Dark. The silence pressed against my ears. Then, a soft tap against my window. I stopped breathing. Another tap. Then, so close it might as well have been inside the car, I heard it. You left something in the woods. I turned my head slowly. She was there. Standing right outside my window. No movement. No breathing. Just her, grinning. Then her head snapped sideways and her voice changed. Lower. Hungrier. Let me in. I slammed my hand down on the lock. She laughed. Not a real laugh. Something broken. Something mimicked. I squeezed my eyes shut. My pulse hammered in my skull. Don't answer. Don't look. Don't let it in. The whispering pressed against my skull, wrapping around my thoughts like vines. Then, silence. I opened my eyes. She was gone. My car engine roared back to life. I hit the gas and never looked back. I don't stop in towns anymore. I don't sleep in motels. It doesn't matter where I go, the whispering finds me. Last night, I made the mistake of looking at my reflection too long. And for a brief second, my reflection didn't blink. Then in my own voice it whispered, "You left something in the woods. And this time, I think I know what it wants." I don't know how long I've been running anymore. The days blur together, miles bleeding into miles, towns flashing past like forgotten dreams. My body is running on fumes, on caffeine and adrenaline and something deeper, pure, unfiltered terror. Because no matter how far I go, it's always there. The whispering. The footprints. But something changed last night. Last night I made the worst mistake of all. I answered. I was exhausted. More exhausted than I had ever been in my life. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, my vision swimming. I hadn't slept in days and my body was shutting down. I told myself I would just pull over. Just rest for a minute. That's when I saw the sign. A faded, flickering neon glow. Motel. No name. No address. Motel. I don't remember pulling in. I don't remember getting out of the car. One moment I was driving, the next I was standing in front of the office door, my reflection staring back at me through the glass. I almost didn't recognize myself. Sunken eyes. Hollow cheeks. My own body barely felt real anymore. The clerk behind the desk barely looked up as I entered. One night, I rasped. He nodded. Slid a key across the counter. Room 106. I don't remember walking to my room. I don't remember unlocking the door. But I remember lying down. I remember closing my eyes. And I remember waking up to the whisper. Daniel? My eyes shot open. Darkness. The air in the room was thick, heavy. My heart pounded against my ribs as I reached for my phone. My fingers were stiff, slow. The screen lit up. Unknown number. I didn't want to answer. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to ignore it, to let it ring. But my thumb moved on its own. I pressed accept. Static hissed through the speaker. Then, you left something in the woods. My stomach turned. The voice wasn't mine this time. It wasn't hers either. It was something else. Deeper. Hungrier. I threw the phone across the room. The moment it hit the wall, the whispering stopped. Silence. Then, a soft knock at the door. I stopped breathing. Another knock. Slow. Rhythmic. My hands clenched the sheets. My throat was dry, my muscles frozen. Then from just outside the door. Let me in, Daniel. It was my voice. I bit down on my lips so hard I tasted blood. Don't answer. Don't move. Don't let it in. The knocking continued. I squeezed my eyes shut. Then, a sharp, splintering sound. The door unlocked. The handle turned. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The door creaked open. A figure stepped inside. It was me. Same face. Same clothes. Same wide, bloodshot eyes. But it wasn't right. The smile was too wide. The fingers were too long. The eyes, empty. It stood there staring at me, swaying slightly. Then in my voice, you left something in the woods. My stomach churned. My head pounded. It took a slow step forward. Come back. Another step. We miss you. The thing lifted a hand. And then, grinned. A twisted, hungry grin stretching past where human skin should go. The edges of its mouth split, black voids yawning open where flesh should be. I finally moved. I bolted. I don't remember how I got to my car. I don't remember starting the engine, or tearing down the empty highway at 90 miles per hour. But I remember looking in the rearview mirror. I remember seeing myself standing in the middle of the road. Smiling. Not moving. Just watching. I don't stop anymore. I don't sleep. Because every time I do, it gets closer. And I think I know what it wants. It doesn't just want me to come back. It wants to replace me. And if I slow down, if I stop running, it will.